Welcome to Scars to Stars, where conversations and personal stories let us know we are not alone. In this show, you will meet authors and speakers from our books and events as they share vulnerable personal stories to spread hope and inspire you through adversities in your own life. The world is a difficult place. You will find like-minded people here with kind hearts and supportive souls. I am your host, Dina Brown Mitchell. I am a suicide survivor and the founder of the Realize Foundation. I am so glad you are here. Let's dig into this meaningful conversation. Hi everyone, it's Dina at the Realize Foundation. I have a special guest today, Angeline. Am I saying your name right?
Yes.
Angeline. And we're going to talk about, we're going to talk about domestic violence today. And we're going to talk about resilience, of course, because we always talk about that.
That's right.
But I would like you to introduce yourself however you like to, and then we'll start talking about your story.
Okay, great. Hello, everyone. So my name is Angeline Constantinou, and I am the founder, CEO, and I am a faith-driven women's empowerment coach, podcast host, global speaker, and co-author of Let's Break the Silence with Angeline. So I empower women who have gone through domestic violence. I help them reclaim their confidence so they can step into their purpose. And the reason why I started my podcast 6 years ago was based on a vision and a dream that I had to empower women to break their silence and reclaim their voices, because I myself unfortunately went through domestic violence. And I was married in New York City, and I thought that I had married the person who was the love of my life. We made 6-figure income, worked in New York City, wined and dined in restaurants, and that type of thing. But behind closed doors, it was not like that. There was verbal abuse, there was physical abuse, there was financial abuse, especially after we lost money in 2008, which was no fault of my own. We lost over $150,000 in savings when the stock market crashed. And that led to a downward spiral. So I made a decision to go out to work in corporate America and also to make a name for myself, because I felt that I had lost my identity and I had lost my sense of self-worth, and he did not like that. So the last 3 years before I actually filed for divorce, the last 3 years I worked on myself, and I worked on rebuilding my self-confidence and self-worth. And I filed for divorce in May of 2010. And I will never forget that day when we went to court and he was served an order of protection. And in New York, there's different types of order protections. And I remember that weekend I left after court and drove to a place called Saratoga Springs, New York, which is one of the jewels in upstate New York. And I made a plan that I was going to live there. And so, I was basically living like a gypsy. But at the same time, I was staying in people's houses. I was staying in motels. I mean, it was just like, it was rough in the beginning. It was very, very rough in the beginning. It was a huge mindset shift that I made. But then at the same time, I got involved in the online space on Facebook. And I think I started my account 2 months before my divorce happened. And then I got involved with a health and wellness company that changed my life. And it aligned with me. And it was all about, empowering women to feel healthy and feel good about themselves. So I did very well. I worked behind the scenes, and 1 year later, fast forward, I left. I was finally able to escape my abuser, and I moved to Saratoga Springs, New York, and basically I had old furniture, just really nothing, but all I had was a vision, and that's all it took. It was that mindset shift, and that's really, really important for a woman who was going through domestic violence. Is and I'm pretty blunt about this, but I always say stop. You have to recognize it. You have to take ownership, and I stopped playing the victim, because I would cry and complain and all this other stuff. But I stopped playing the victim. I surrendered. I surrendered my pride and ego. I drew a line in the sand. And then I recognized the fact that I was in an abusive relationship, in a toxic, that was staying, like the trauma that stays in you. So I realized that I was in that traumatic state. And I said, I got to get out of here. Otherwise, I'm not going to be alive. And I'm very, very grateful that I was able to make a plan and escape and leave, basically be free. So I broke free from that limiting belief. And I said, I'm just going to do this. You just got to do it.
Yeah. When we talked before, you told me a very specific story about you ending up in the hospital. Would you mind sharing that story?
Sure. No problem. So back in December of 1999, I will never forget this night. So I was lying down in bed with my robe on, and my husband at the time was verbally abusive. He was putting me down, and he was very, very abusive. And basically, just like, I felt that he was becoming really psychotic. And I said, well, I'm just going to, and I was crying. I was literally crying in bed, and I couldn't sleep. So I remember saying, well, I'm just going to go into the other room and just stay and just, try to go to sleep. And when I got up, I was walking towards the room, and unfortunately, I did not make it in the other room. He grabbed me behind the neck, and he threw me against the wall, and I fell backwards, and I felt crackling. So my nose was broken. I was bleeding. And I will never forget this. And I was telling, and I was talking about this a few weeks ago before this episode, that I was literally lying on my back. And I looked up at the ceiling, and I just cried out to God. I said, please, please, I don't want to, I want to live. And I remember, like, I would listen to Les Brown, and Les Brown said, if you could look up, you can get up. And I felt like I heard those words. And so I got up. And then when I looked in the mirror, I was like horrified. And then a few minutes later, my ex came over, and he took me to the hospital. So he had to actually carry me down the stairs and take me to the emergency room, which is not unusual. So I went to the hospital that night. I was on IV for the entire night, and I was told that you are going to need reconstructive nose surgery, which happened 2 days later. So I was very, very grateful that I had a good surgeon. And that's, I thank God for that, because I was in a good hospital. And I just, it was horrifying. I thought I was going to die that night. And that was like, at that moment in time, I didn't even think about leaving my ex, because I felt shamed. And I felt ashamed to actually tell my parents and my family what actually happened. So at the hospital, they asked me what happened. So I said I fell down the stairs, which was not true. And that's not easy for me to admit, but that's what I said. And I even told the New York State Police the same thing. So that night in the hospital was like, it was at the same time I felt that God saved me. And like I said, I had a good surgeon, and 2 days later, I was released that night at 5 o'clock in the morning. I think it was 5 or 5:30 in the morning. Went back home, and I had a bandage over my nose because it was broken. They were able to stop the bleeding, and but I was walking around with a broken nose for 2 days, and I just felt, at the same time feeling bad, but at the same time, I was grateful that night that I felt that God saved me. I felt that God saved me that night. It was unbelievable. Like, wow, it's like to go through that traumatic event. I've never gone through that before in my life. I've never gone through that where someone actually threw me against the wall. And that was the only time. And actually, that was the only time that he was physically abusive. The rest of the time, it was verbal abuse and financial abuse.
And how long were you married?
How long was I in the hospital?
No, how long were you married?
Oh, I was married for 23 years.
Okay.
See? But I was married for 23 years. So what happened was, in that case, he was wearing the mask. So I had no idea, that he was like that until like shortly, not right away after our marriage, but I would say probably a year after the marriage, I could tell his behavior was different. I could tell he was controlling, manipulative, and and I just felt it got worse. But I was ashamed because, especially for me, being married in the Greek, being in the Greek culture, it's like you marry for better, for worse, or for richer or poor. Like, we're conditioned to believe that we have to stay married even though we feel miserable. And I think that just stayed in me for a long time. But I finally, even my parents supported me. When my parents were alive, they said, you have to leave. You have to leave, and you have to do what's right for yourself. So that's what I did. I came to that conclusion that and I'm so glad I left. I am so happy, and I feel elated because that was a year of rediscovery, and I rediscovered who I truly am, and who, that I could stand up on my own 2 feet, and I could go out to dinner by myself. I could, because a lot of times there's still an emotional attachment that women feel towards the abuser, which is not unusual. It's an attachment and it's a trauma bond. But at that time, I drew a line in the sand. I said, I'm going to do what it takes to leave, and to leave alive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the other thing that people don't always understand is that the emotional abuse or verbal abuse can be just as bad as physical abuse, but we don't talk about it like that. So you said that there was verbal abuse for years before this happened.
Oh, so yeah.
What would you say to other people who are going through something like that?
What I would say is if there's verbal abuse happening, to not feed into it, to ignore it, not feed into it, walk away. Like, even that night, I said I was going to just go in the other room and sleep for the night, but walk away, go out for a walk. And I actually started doing that even before that incident happened. I would go out for a walk. I would go out for 2-mile walks. I would take the car and go to a coffee shop and just like clear my head because of the emotional abuse that heaped on me. And fortunately, we did not have children. That turned out to be a blessing. Because in a lot of cases, there's children involved, and that even makes it more difficult. But I think in this case, I would just say walk away, do not feed into it, and just make a plan. And I did. I had a caseworker who worked with me for 1 year. during my divorce. So, seek help. There's resources available now. You can call the National Domestic Violence Hotline and they will guide you. In fact, I helped a woman. This was during COVID actually, and she lived just outside of New York City, and she was mortified. I mean, because this is when everything shut down, and her husband was very abusive. They had a child, but we got on the phone and we made a plan. I made a plan with her. I did some research online for her, and I said, you can go here, you can make that phone call. And she made the phone call and she left with the child. So she was able to find shelter, and they got her into housing. So thank God. See, just that one little thing, that one little thing. So there's a lot of resources that are out there for domestic violence survivors. So like I said, call the hotline. You can always book a call with me and talk to me. And, we can navigate that. I can help you navigate that path.
Yeah.
Definitely. Definitely.
And I don't know why, but I feel like I need to say more about the emotional and verbal stuff, because I was in a relationship once that happened, and I didn't really think much of it at first. And then I didn't really it didn't make me feel good, but I didn't understand the ramifications of what was happening. And I didn't understand the fact that, like you, that escalates into more, and into more physical things. And I think it's really important that people hear that and know that if you have a significant other that is belittling you and berating you with negative things all the time, that's not normal and it's not okay.
It's not okay. Exactly. Exactly.
Hi there, it's Dina. If you like our podcast and you're enjoying learning about other people's stories of overcoming adversity, please go over to therealizefoundation.org and support us by donating. We believe that conversations, community, and personal story can change lives and reduce suicide ideation. And we also have a way, if you have a business, you can support us without money out of your pocket. So go on over to realizefoundation.org and look at the donate page, and you can learn how to support us as a business, and also you can donate any amount. Thank you so much.
It's not okay. That's not normal. And in our minds, we think that's normal. We think that we are the problem because it's like a spiral downward effect, like things start spiraling downwards.
Yes.
And falling apart. But, emotionally. And that's where the trauma comes in. That's because I was holding on to a lot of trauma. I was holding on to a lot of trauma for too long. But I sought help. I asked for help. And I actually went for therapy for 1 year. And I took a medication because I had to at the time. But then after I left, they weaned me off the medication, and now I don't take meds at all. I take supplements, but I don't take meds. You know what I mean? So I take health supplements because I'm a firm believer in taking care of yourself. So you got to take care of you. You come first, and give yourself grace, and start loving on yourself. And you can, if I can do it, you can do it. Start loving on yourself, because when you start to love yourself, you can love on others. Then you will be able to be in that position where you can love on others.
Yeah.
So,
do you have any specific advice for people who have children?
That's a good question. That's a good question. So in the case of my friend who had the child, I would say make a plan. Now, she couldn't even go to her parents' house. So, for women with children, there are still it depends on your situation. So if you're able to leave, then I would say leave. I wouldn't stay because it's just going to get worse. And who wants to be beaten in front of a child? Because I've heard too many cases where the woman has been beaten. So once you make that plan and leave, and I would suggest calling the hotline, make a plan and leave. Make a plan and leave. But don't go back, because when you go back, the police will not help you, because that happened to me. Because like the first time I would go back, but then the second time when I had the protective order in place and I left for 2 weeks, the police came back to me and they said, if you rescind the protective order, we're not going to help you. We're not going to help you. We're not going to support you. So I didn't rescind because they're going to try and talk you out of it. They're going to try and apologize. Oh, I'm so sorry. And then you forgive them. And then 2 weeks later, the same thing happens all over again. And forget it. I don't want you to go through what I went through. And I didn't have children, but for ones who have children, definitely make a plan and leave.
Yeah. So that thing where if you go back, they won't help you, is that a New York thing or is that a nationwide thing?
I would say nationwide.
Okay.
I would say mine happened in New York. Now, there's different laws in different states, because each state is different. But I lived in New York and upstate New York, and I did have support of the New York State Police and the local police department. I had support because I would tell them, like I would go to Saratoga. I would tell them I'm going to Saratoga for the weekend. I'm staying with a friend for a few days, and then I'm going to go back and then go out again and go stay with another friend or go stay, you know what I mean? So fortunately I asked for help. You have to ask for help.
Yes.
So that's my biggest advice to a woman who has a child. Do not be afraid to ask for help, because you would be amazed at how many people will help you. If they know what your situation is, they'll help you.
Yeah.
No doubt about it.
So for people in this situation, and you ask for help or you go to the police and you have a protective order, like what do you know that can happen to your spouse in that situation? I mean, I'm sure they could be arrested. They could be like, what does that look like?
Yeah, that's a good question. So depending on the circumstances, yes, they could be arrested if they violate the protective order. And I know in New York State, there are different protective orders. There are different levels. So I had what's called a limited protective order. So I moved all my belongings upstairs because we had a 2-story house. So what I would do is I would go back at night when he was sleeping. I would unlock the door and just go upstairs. But then I would leave again the next day. So I knew like when he was out, because he would actually go out during the day or in the morning. So I knew when he was out. But there's different types of protective orders. So I would just check with your state and local authorities to see what's there. Because I know what it is in New York, but other states I don't know. So you have ChatGPT now too. I didn't have ChatGPT. I actually did research. Oh, I have a story to share. I did research for a woman friend of mine. I went on ChatGPT. I don't know what to do. I'm lost. Well, they're crying. You know what I mean? They're crying out for help, and I helped her. I said, you could go here, do this, do that. I sent it to her, and then she did it. Yeah. See? Just that shift. She's like, oh my gosh. And then 2 days later, she messaged me on Facebook. She said, I'm in a safe place now.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I think it's that it's kind of our mind plays tricks on us, because when you're in trauma, you can't see through that to see what solutions there are. And sometimes we just need someone to hold our hand.
We need someone to hold our hand, right? That's normal. That's normal. In fact, I have a call scheduled with a woman who I met in London, and her ex drove her 3 hours to meet me in London when I spoke at that Real and Raw live event. So we're going to be having a call sometime over the weekend. So, like, you reach your breaking point. You reach a point where you're like, I'm not going to live like this. So instead of focusing on the loss, focus on what you can do and just do it.
Yeah.
Just do it. Imperfect action is better than taking no action at all.
True. In any situation.
Any situation. Exactly. Just do it. Take it, even if it's a small thing. Like if you woke up and just took a shower, that's you did something.
Yes.
You did something. So celebrate that. That's a win for me.
Mm-hmm.
I always like to celebrate the small wins because the small wins equal the big wins.
Yes. So if somebody was to reach out to you and want to work with you, what would that look like?
Okay, that's a good question. So we would hop on a call, and I am offering a free 30-minute breakthrough call. I call it a breakthrough discovery session where we actually map out, I will help you develop a roadmap for you. And I want to get to know who you are first, what your goals are, and then we can figure out what the plan of action is and then take it from there.
Sure. And how is the best way for people to reach out to you?
Okay, to go to letsbreakthesilence.com, and in the upper right-hand corner, it says book a call. You just click on that button and it will take you to my Calendly link. And it is a free 30-minute session. So,
Okay.
So I'm offering that right now to women who are looking for direction, and women, who kind of like feel stuck, like they may be already out of that situation, of that domestic violence or trauma, but they're still feeling stuck because they have no idea what they want to do. I know that for me, I had to reclaim I had to like find myself again, if that makes sense, meaning to help rebuild my confidence, take my life back, and reclaim my identity because I lost it. You lose that during it's horrible. I mean, people have no idea unless you've gone through it, because I know what it's like to feel worthless. I don't want to feel that way again. So, so I'll get to know you, and then we will make a plan, meaning have a roadmap for you so you can be on your way to reclaiming your power and life back.
Yes. That's awesome. I'll make sure that's in the show notes so people can reach out to you.
Thank you.
And I'm just wondering, like, people who are in this situation and they're scared to reach out or scared to say anything. What would you say to them?
For someone who is scared, I can completely understand how you feel. I know what it feels like to be scared because I was scared to share my story. But your story is going to help someone because someone's scrolling on social media looking for hope. And I remember when I shared my story, I went live, and this took a while, in March of 2018, when I hired a mentor, and he said, Angeline, you haven't shared your story yet. See, he knew what was holding me back. And so I had to break through that limiting belief and not overthink it and just go live using the phone. Phone was shaking. I was in my 1-bedroom apartment. It was shaking. I wasn't smiling. I was crying in the beginning of the video, at least, but that was a breakthrough. Shared my story in 18 minutes. It went to 7 million views. Like it went
Wow.
viral. The video went viral
Wow.
immediately. Like I think over 3,000 views by the time the video was over. People were sharing it out like crazy, including overseas. So
Wow.
yeah, so don't be afraid to share your story. You have the power to rewrite your story. You have it within you to share your story and make an impact and create impact for other women because someone is looking for hope, and lo and behold, that's what happened.
Yeah.
Yeah, people were like, that means 7 million people were impacted. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So don't
That's,
be afraid. Don't be afraid. I know we may feel like we're ashamed and everything, but I got over that.
yeah.
I got over that, and I just, I had to break through that limiting belief. I had to work with my mentor. I said, he's just go share your story. He said, they're gonna
It's
go.
so easy. Just go share your
Yeah,
story.
I know, but I was like, okay, I'm afraid to go live. You see, those are all limiting beliefs.
Yeah.
We're not conscious of it. But once I was able to break through that, now I can go live with no problem. Then I started my podcast shortly after that. So,
Yeah.
yeah, you see, so huge breakthroughs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, 2018 was when I lost my friend to suicide, and I had been silent about my attempt for 23 years, and did not want to talk about it.
See?
But I felt like God was asking me to speak up because of that. And I had been trying to have lunch with this person, and we just never happened. And so the thing that really made me speak up was, if we would have had lunch and I could have talked to him, would it have mattered?
Right.
And that is what keeps me doing what I'm doing, because I will never know the answer to that. But if there was a chance that it could have saved his life,
Sure.
And I think that the other thing, when I was asking if you're scared, I think the people who are in that situation, in a home that is abusive in whatever way, and they're scared to ask for help because they're scared that this person that's abusing them will find out they ask for help or make it worse, or like, how do we give them the confidence to reach out for help?
Well, I think one of the things that I think just giving them that reassurance that everything is going to be okay. Everything is going to be okay. Because when you release you're actually releasing all that. You're sharing your story, not only sharing your story, but you're not being silent anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Knowing that you're going to make an impact on someone else's life. Someone could be scrolling on social media. You could even do a recording and just post it on Facebook. We have so many, there are so many women down, because I'm on TikTok, they're sharing their stories.
Mm-hmm.
So it is a global issue. And I have always felt that domestic violence has been thrown under the carpet. It's been shoved under the carpet.
Mm-hmm.
But now more women are speaking out. And it does take time. It took me 20 years to do it, like 25 years or whatever. So it took me a while because, we were ashamed. We're conditioned to feel ashamed. Oh no, you got, you got to be quiet. You can't, you know what I mean? But I decided not to be quiet anymore. And I decided, because I knew that and look, and all these women are being impacted with my story. Yeah, and it's inspiration for men too. It's inspirational for men too, because they see a strong woman. They see that. And maybe some men have, and it works both ways actually, because some men have gone through, they just don't talk about it because they support, like, it's society, the men have to be tough and masculine. But, I've known some men who have gone through trauma, domestic violence, and they're doing very well now. So,
Yeah, I was gonna say that it does happen the other way as well.
it happens the other way too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I hope anyone listening to this that's in a situation where you don't feel a way out, that you would reach out to somebody
Yes.
and say that you need help, because I know that's the hardest step. I mean, leaving is another step, but actually saying I need help is big. So
Exactly.
yeah.
Exactly. Absolutely. Absolutely. Don't be afraid to ask for help.
Yeah.
And it's not the end of the world.
It feels like it, but it's not.
Feels like it, but you know, God poured it in my heart to ask for help. It's like you know, God poured it in my heart to share my story.
Mm-hmm.
God is saying, share your story.
Yep.
Yeah,
He is. He's always saying that.
exactly. Exactly. Absolutely.
I think it's because when we share our story, we're giving other people the message that they are not alone.
Exactly. Exactly. You are not alone. Your voices need to be heard.
Mm-hmm. That's so true.
Yes. And lean into God. I leaned into God at that time. Big time. Big time. Yeah. Lean into God. In fact, this year in May, I got rebaptized. That feels good to let go of your old self, boy.
Mm-hmm.
That feels so good. Just wash away everything.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So,
Well, thank you so much for having this conversation, because I think it is needed
yes,
and somebody's listening that needed to hear it. So
absolutely. Absolutely.
thank you
Absolutely.
for
Thank you
being
for having me on your show, too. Thank you. This was great. This was amazing.
awesome.
I'm so happy you joined us for this conversation. My wish is that you found comfort and hope in your own unique situation. If you resonated with our message, please head over to therealizefoundation.org, where you can apply to write your own story in one of our books. You can also download our 60 Ideas for Self-Care on the resources page. I can't wait to hear from you. Until next time, you are not alone, you are worthy, and you are enough.